Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So welcome to part 2 of my March wrap-up. I decided to split my wrap-up this month between all of the romance that I read and everything else. So if you saw part 1, that was my everything else section of my March reading. I read 27 books in March, so let's be real, I needed to split this up anyway. So this is about the, how many did I read? 12 romance books? I recently discovered my love of romance, and I feel like a lot of this is thanks to the fact that I went to a Polycon, so I was reading a lot of the stuff leading up to a Polycon. There were authors that were going to be there. It's a romance author event, so obviously it was going to be all romance. And then being excited while I'm there, talking to everybody else who reads romance, getting really good recommendations, and going from there afterwards. So it was a romance-heavy month. I may keep doing this for the foreseeable future, because I listen to a lot of romance. It's some of my favorite stuff to listen to while I'm at work. It's very easy to listen to. And I don't think romance is represented very much on BookTube, and I want to give it some love. So here we are. So let's get into the wrap-up. If you guys are new here, I generally do my wrap-ups in the order of least liked to most liked instead of chronologically how I read them. So I'm going to start with like my least liked books and end on a high note of like my favorite books that I read that month. So that is going to be the scale that I am rating these, and they're all going to be romance. That's what you're in for with this video. All right, you already know that. You clicked on it. You saw the thumbnail. Okay, move on. The first book that I wanted to get to was Tide by L.J. Shen. I recently have been getting into L.J. Shen's writing, and this was, I think, my third book that I read by her, and so far this is my least liked one. I gave this one 2 stars. L.J. Shen writes really intense enemies to lovers books and really strong bad boy bully characters. Sometimes I fuck hard with that. Like, I can get down with an obnoxious, cocky, dominant alpha male type of character, and sometimes they just rub me the wrong way. And unfortunately for this book, it rubbed me the wrong way. So this is following Ty, who is a professional MMA fighter and super cocky about it. And sometimes you can get down with a really cocky guy, and this one, it didn't seem authentic or something. It was just obnoxious in this case. And it is following this girl who's in college, and she gets assigned a journalist piece to interview and discuss MMA fighting. So she has to go interview this guy at the gym, and it starts out with like sexual tension, and she's just like, I'm not gonna sleep with you, and he's like, you're gonna sleep with me. Like, I think I like sexual tension when it's more built up behind the scenes instead of as in your face. Like, if the guy kind of establishes that they're gonna sleep together from like day one, it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't brew the tension as much in my opinion. So I gave this one 2 stars. It was okay. That's it. Next book I want to talk about is a 3-star book, and that is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is my first Penelope Douglas book. I don't think it's where I should have started with her books, but it's the book that I saw getting a lot of hype last year. Like, I saw a lot of my friends reading this book last year and talking about it, and it was supposed to be very taboo. It's a very big age gap romance. So I went into this with high expectations of some serious, kinky age play stuff. Like, we go in knowing that our main character is going to fall for her boyfriend's dad, and I was down for some weird stuff, okay? And unfortunately, this book just ultimately turned into an age gap vanilla relationship. I don't know why. I think I was just expecting more taboo subject matter based on like the reviews that I was seeing and people talking about it. I was expecting like a huge age gap. And I mean, it was big, and it is kind of awkward because, you know, it's her boyfriend's dad, but it just ultimately turned into a very, like, it was a good romance story as itself. Like, so if you took the age gap out of it, it was like a pretty standard good romance story. But I think I just went in with different expectations than what I received. So I gave it 3 stars. I actually really liked a lot of the things that were talked about in this book, and it was a lot longer and lengthier in content than I was expecting from that type of romance. So I'm definitely sold on her writing, but I don't think that was a good introduction, in my opinion, to her as an author for me. So I think I'm going to go back. I have, I think, the first book in the Bully series downloaded. If you guys have read that, let me know where you think I should go. That's the one that I picked next because I saw higher ratings for that. But if you have suggestions of Penelope Douglas books and the direction I should go in, let me know, because I'm still very new. That's the only thing I've read from her so far. Okay, the next 2 books I have to discuss are going back to L.J. Shen. So I read Ruckus, which is the second book in the Sinners of Saints series, and I read Vicious by her. Both of these I gave 3 stars. Vicious I loved a smidge more. Vicious in my opinion, is the good type of the bully, obnoxious character. I initially read this because Mel from Mel to the Annie talked about this, and it was sold to her as being like a new adult romance where the main character is essentially Carden from The Cruel Prince. Like, he is just a dick, and it's sexual tension aplenty, and honestly, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It was steamy, it was intense. I'm interested, and I'm invested in this series now because it's, again, one of my favorite things. It's very common in the romance world where you're just going to follow multiple couples, where you get introduced to all of the male characters and you see all of their romance storylines as the books progress. These are all kind of like the very wealthy, successful businessmen who have the right to be cocky type of characters. So it's him and his friends who own this business together, and they are rich, they are full of themselves, and they own it. So book 2 follows another one of his friends and his storyline. I didn't love it as much as Vicious. Like, Vicious, for some reason, just got to me. He was a dick. That's where I am in those books. I gave both of them 3 stars. Were they anything groundbreaking? No. Were they super fun and super sexy? Yes. The next book I want to talk about was Pucked by Helena Hunting. I listened to this and I grinned like an idiot the entire time. This book was freaking hilarious. So this was my first introduction to her. I actually read this and Clipped Wings back to back, like simultaneously. So I touched on both types of her writing. I didn't love this one as much as I loved Clipped Wings. I'll get to that in a second. That's later in the wrap-up. So Pucked is a hockey romance, and I ate it up. I had no idea that I was going to be a sports romance enthusiast because what is sports? I don't sports. That's not a thing that I do in my life, so I have zero desire to read about them. But for some reason, the cocky jock character is like a favorite of mine. Like, if he's good and athletic, then you know it's gonna be like, he's gonna be good in bed, I guess. I don't know if that's where my logic is. So this was just like the funniest, cutest romance between a girl and a hockey player who is Canadian. By the way, if you listen to the audiobook of Pucked, the voice actor who plays Alex is super Canadian and his accent is precious. But Violet, who is our main character, was one of the best main characters. Like, she reminded me kind of Hazel from Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating, where she is just like, she owns her weirdness. Like, she is just super quirky, she's confident in her quirkiness, and I love it. I just adored her as a main character, and then their romance together was actually like a really healthy back and forth romance with sexual tension, and she can't date him because he's a friend of her brother's, like he's on the same team as her brother, so it's like she's off bounds. It was so great. I loved it. I can't wait to continue on with the Puck series. That introduced me to Helena Hunting's writing on like a lighter level, but I also, like I said, I read the Clipped Wings books. I'm gonna go in a weird order with these just because I'm going by ranking of like least liked to most liked. So I'm gonna start with book 3 in the Clipped Wings trilogy, which is called Fractures in Ink. This is the next book that I want to talk about that I gave 3 stars to. This, I really liked it. It's kind of a follow-up story of a friend of the main characters from the first 2 books. Like, essentially, in my mind, Clipped Wings is a duology and then 1 book, plus a whole bunch of novellas in the middle. Because the first 2 books follow the main couple. Like, we have 2 books about the same couple, and then we have 1 book about a friend of that couple. So this is the book that I'm talking about. I still really enjoyed it. It still tackled harder hitting issues than her Puck series, but I didn't love it as much as the Clipped Wings one. So I gave it 3 stars. I still love me a good tattooed boy. I'm pretty sure tattoos is like my kink when it comes to reading romance. If he's a tattoo artist, he's artistic, which means he's deep, right? That's what it means? Okay. Okay, and then the next book I want to get to, again, I'm going out of order with these series just because I'm going by ranking, is Flow by Kennedy Ryan. This is the prequel novella to Grip, which I will get to in a second. Don't worry, I'll talk about that book. I gave this one 3 stars just because it is a prequel novella, so there isn't much substance to it. It's just their backstory about how they met prior to meeting them in Grip. It was cute. I don't think this was technically necessary because we pretty much knew everything that happened in this from like the flashbacks that we saw in Grip, but I still loved it. I adore these characters. Grip is one of my favorite like male protagonists in romance that I've read in a really long time, so I will read anything that he's in, to be completely honest with you, because I'm into that. All right, I am jumping all over with this wrap up. I feel like I should have just gone in order of series, but it's fine. We're rolling with it. It's okay. So the next book that I want to talk about is Ryan's Bed by Tejan. I crammed this in during a Polycon just because I saw how many people were in Tejan's line, and I was like, shoot, this is an author that I should have been reading, and I feel like she doesn't make appearances very often for signings, and I should have had books to sign, but I hadn't read anything at that point, so that was actually the audiobook that I was listening to while I was there. And also, this was way more YA than I expected. For some reason, I just pictured all of her books to just be like steamy, sexy adult romances based on her covers and a lot of the plot synopsises. But this one is definitely a YA one because it follows high schoolers. I mean, yes, there is sex in it and it's pretty graphic, but it definitely is a much younger book and it tackled heavier things than I was expecting. This one basically follows a girl who is dealing with the aftermath of her twin sister committing suicide and her really struggling with the grief and overcoming that and feeling left behind. And it was very dramatic and it was very angsty, but I think it was good. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't love it. I feel like it had the potential to be something that I was obsessed with and it just kind of missed that mark. It was still really heavy and really important and balanced it really well with like healthy sexual relationships, I guess. But I'm definitely very intrigued to check out more of her books now because I'm kind of sold on her writing. If this is like kind of her juvenile version, I can't wait to see what her like heavy adult writing is like. So I gave this 4 stars. We're in the 4-star section of this video, by the way, with this book. Okay, and then we're jumping back to Helena Hunting's with the Clipped Wings books. I devoured these. These were so damn good. This is exactly the type of sexy time book that I'm looking for. So this follows the romance between Tenley and Hayden, and y'all, Hayden is my king. He is a dark, brooding bad boy with a whole bunch of tattoos and is super artistic. That's, If you have any recommendations of other books like these, let me know. Because right now, Hayden is sitting pretty at my like top book boyfriend slot right now, because love me a tattooed boy. So obviously this is following Hayden, who is a tattoo artist, who has, again, a very dark past. His parents were murdered and he was the one who found them, so he has had some struggles with dealing with this and overcoming with this, or should I say not dealing with it. He kind of just like closed it off and has some deep emotional issues that he is working through. And this is following Tenley, who went through a really traumatic loss of key figures in her life. I'm not going to go too far into spoilers, I guess. But it's basically their relationship that starts because she wants to get kind of a memorial tattoo as a way to start healing from the loss that she has suffered. And it has sexual tension aplenty between the two of them because obviously tattooing, you kind of got to take your clothes off and be very intimate for a long period of time. Y'all, this was so good. I love these 2 books. So Clipped Wings is book 1 and Inked Armor is book 2. I loved both of them. Their whole story I just devoured. I'm obsessed with them. I want more of their story and it was so good. I loved it. I gave both of them 4 stars. And the last book that I have to talk about is Grip by Kennedy Ryan. I said I would get back to it and here we are. I loved this book. This is one of my favorite new adult romances that I have ever read. In my opinion, this is just a more mature version of On the Come Up. Like, this discusses so many important, diverse issues, but it also is set in the context of a romance, so it's not as unapproachable, I guess. But it deals with, like, the Black Lives Matters movement, it deals with police brutality, it deals with racial profiling, but it was so healthy and, oh my god, this book was so good. This is going at the top of one of my recommended lists when it comes to new adult romance. So this is a interracial relationship. So we are following Grip, who is a Black coming up rapper who is amazing, but has dealt with some serious shit in his past just from being Black. And then we were following Bristol, who is the love interest, who is our protagonist. She is kind of his manager, like his musical manager. And it's their relationship and him trying to convince her that they should be together and her trying to say no, that it's unprofessional and that they wouldn't end up together and it wouldn't be good for them. And it was just, it was so good. I don't know how else to like sing this book's praises, but it was just so eye-opening. It was a very healthy discussion of the issues that you could face in an interracial relationship. So I loved it. I adore Kennedy Ryan as an author. She's one of my favorite human beings. After meeting her, I'm going to read everything that she writes. After reading this book, if this is like my first inclination of like what her writing is like, I'm gonna read everything that she writes. I adore her. So if you're gonna take anything away from this video, this is the book to read. So if you guys read romance, let me know. Give me some suggestions, because I'm very new to this whole genre and I am just loving it. So that is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in my next one.